One bright spot in our state economy, even during a recession, has been merchandise exports. Utah, as a matter of fact, has posted 2 consecutive years of record-setting export numbers, and we are on pace for a 3rd consecutive year. Joining me today to talk about that, Cramer, President and CEO of the World Trade Center Utah. Lou, thanks for joining us.
Marty, delighted to be here. We've got some good news to share.
So I think the first question is, what exactly qualifies as a merchandise export? It sounds like that's a subset of big exports. What are we talking about there?
Well, exports mean products that Utah firms create, develop, mine, and then they sell to an overseas customer. And so that also would include such things as we build a semiconductor chip that goes into an airplane that's sold overseas. That's an export for us. In addition, if there's a tourist that comes from Switzerland to enjoy the great beauties of our wonderful state, that's a tourism is counted as an export because dollars, Swiss francs, for example, are spent in America. We also have students here. We have about 6,500 foreign students, international students in Utah. Those are exports. Licensing fees and others, those are all exports, but they're not counted in our merchandise export numbers because those numbers are typically hard things that you can see at a dock or see that get on a ship or a plane. But our numbers in that regard, shipping exports overseas, have really been phenomenal the last 3 or 4 years.
So in reality, we don't think of it this way, but we actually export the greatest snow on earth.
There you go. I like that. That's exactly right.
Anything to add to the total. Now, just recently, the Brookings Institution has put out a ranking or a survey, a study of some of the top metropolitan areas as far as export numbers in Utah, as you would expect with those good numbers that we just talked about, ranking very highly.
As you would totally expect. In fact, they looked at 10 metropolitan areas in the western United States in particular, and 3 of the 10 were in Utah that were doing the best job of increasing exports overseas. And why is that important? It's because Utah exports mean Utah jobs. They mean higher paying, higher salaried, and higher trained kind of jobs. And so in this current recession, real estate's of course suffered. Other kinds of industry sectors have been under a lot of siege, but in truth, the fact that we're shipping, developing, making products that people around the world want to buy is a very positive development for the Utah economy.
So let's say, for example, that I'm just a Utah company that doesn't do a lot of exporting, or maybe doesn't export at all. I make widgets, and I want to look to these other markets. Is there an advantage to doing it during a recession, or is the instinct correct that maybe now's not the time?
Bad instinct, because now is the time. 95% of the world lives outside of the United States anyway. You know, you look at where the growth's taking place now, it's in Asia. That's where your products with good quality, Utah ingenuity, design, all the other things that make America products wanted around the world, that's now is the time to sell those products overseas, because you have, with the dollar where it is today, you can make more shipping from Delta to Dusseldorf than from Delta to Detroit, because of these opportunities in today's international global marketplace.
President Obama has been fairly aggressive when it comes to exports, stating that he wants the United States to double the amount of exports over the next 5 years. A realistic goal, and what do Utah companies do to make that happen?
President Obama mentioned that in his State of the Union as a priority. He knows that that kind of export growth will sustain a lot of good American jobs. He wants to double exports in the next 5 years, as you mentioned, Marty. He's come to Utah, his administration has come to Utah to see, because in Utah we in fact have doubled exports the last 5 years. And the way we're doing that is we're looking at taking advantages of our entrepreneurial spirit. Our high-tech products are growing like crazy. We have a diverse economy. We have people who speak other languages and are comfortable in other cultures, and they're saying if we're ever going to sell overseas, now's the time to do it. And we're seeing that particularly in our small and medium-sized companies. Of course, our large companies, the primary metals for 150 years have been our primary exports, but the smaller, medium-sized companies with entrepreneurial skills who want to really power and build market share in this economy are taking very large advantage of this and seeing success.
And the organization that you head up, the strategic partner of the Salt Lake Chamber, the World Trade Center Utah, that's your whole mission, to assess, educate, and help these companies into profitable global markets. Not to take your talking point there, but have you seen more companies wanting to take advantage of those opportunities?
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about how you help those companies companies do that?
We have seen that because we're smart in Utah. We realize the world is a big place, and the marketplace outside of the ARC boundaries is where the growth is taking place. And so working extremely closely with our strategic partners at the Salt Lake Chamber, with the Governor's Office of Economic Development, with the Small Business Administration, with the Economic Development Administration, we have, I think, formed a very strong catalyst for international answers for these kinds of questions. One of the things that international folks say when they come to Utah is, you folks actually do work together. You like each other. You're cooperating. We say we have to, because Utah business comes to us at the World Trade Center. They don't care whether they get the answer from us, Go-Ed, Chamber. They just want an answer. How can I get credit to sell overseas? Where can I get my export financing? How do I find an agent distributor? And so if you call me with that question and I can't answer it, I immediately call the Department of Commerce or SBA or Go-Ed and say, can you help us on this one, because we're all in this together.
Not that there has been a question that you can't answer.
We do our darndest, and we have a great team here, and we look forward to increased cooperation with our strategic partners.
We'll let you go with the difficult one then. $10.3 billion in merchandise exports. It beat that last year by a small amount, but still progress for Utah merchandise exports. This year, what's the number?
Remember, I'm betting my firstborn grandchild on somewhere north of $12 billion. Marty, we should also note that $10.3 billion last year was the best export growth in the United States. Our state, small, landlocked in the middle of the Rocky Mountains, had the best export growth performance in the entire country. This year, we're already 47% above last year's record, which is the second best now in the country, because Detroit, which is a little bigger trough, is coming out of it. But there's no doubt that as Utah companies take advantage of this, we're going to see that $12 and $15 billion export numbers being reached, and taking care of what the President wants to do in doubling exports in this great state.
Lou Cramer is the President and CEO of the World Trade Center Utah, a strategic partner of the Salt Lake Chamber. Lou, as always, thanks for joining us.
Marty, great to be a partner with you. Thank you.
For more information, you can go to our website, slchamber.com. You can also find the World Trade Center Utah at
WTCUT.com.
WTCUT.com. Thanks, Lou.
Thank you, Marty.